if we understand the business, that why we're doing it, and we have that approach that how can we solve the problem with people, because we have to understand HR is about people. I mean, even the talent acquisition part, yes, it's very quantitative and it's very data driven, but ultimately we are hiring people. We have to convince people to join, we have to sell it to people, and therefore that aspect is something which is very important.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm Rahul Abhishek, the CEO and founder of HireWithEve.ai, an applicant screening platform. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, Shailja Bohra. To quickly introduce Shailja, she's the general manager of global talent acquisition and mobility at Schneider Electric, a leading automation machinery manufacturing company, well known with an annual revenue of about 36.8 billion. Shailja has held key roles at organizations such as Legrand and Zee Entertainment, and she has a graduate background in zoology and animal biology. So, very interesting background. So, welcome to the podcast, Shailja.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rahul. Yes, I mean, yes, pretty interesting. From biology to HR, it's
Of
been
course.
a wonderful journey. Thank you so much for this introduction. Thank you.
Perfect. Why don't we start on that note? If you could tell us from zoology and animal biology, what led to your kind of transition to a role in HR?
Yeah, okay, sure. I mean, we can. So it's not connected. That's what I would say. Zoology is something that was pretty interesting. But I got into the more details of zoology and understanding about animal kingdom, I did realize that what do I want to do? Do I want to deal with, I mean, it's more like the more you get into the subject, the better you get to know. And meantime, I developed interest in my college days about the sociology or the human aspect. And therefore, I thought that maybe let's switch your focus from animal to human, and that's how the transition from zoology to human is what I can say. That's pretty much what I would say has been my journey of to in HR.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Shailja. Now, and just as a warm-up question, I often ask my guest about this, and would be great to get your notion also and kind of perspective on this. Is that we believe HRs and in general the domain of HR are the superheroes of the organization. And why we say that is because this particular function really brings together the team that executes on the mission and the vision of the organization. So I just wonder, what do you think of that notion?
Okay. Great question. What you think is correct. And I'll tell you why. One of the unique advantages that HR would have is really that they can actually look at the organization at a different vantage points from business aspect as well as people aspect. And not a lot of functions in our organization will have that vantage point. And therefore, to have that view brings in with its own superpower, or I would also say the responsibility that the HR would hold. And therefore, it becomes very important that HR plays its role, and therefore, HR becomes very vital, the superpower, or whatever you would want to say. I think it's the vantage point that really that the HR would have gives them the superpower.
Great. I mean, the vantage point. So, of course, that's a good perspective, and so to say, with great power comes great responsibilities. So, what would you say are some of the areas where in your career you've seen the HR, the domain of HR, the people working within the domain of HR could work, and you've often found them that to be a, so to say, Achilles heel?
Where HR could work.
In their own kind of strengthening their own domain. So often there is a
Okay,
weakness. Yeah.
got it. See, there are two things that I would say. I mean, you can have multiple things, but two things just to give a very broad perspective. One would be built on business acumen. And the other would be have a very human-centric approach, or I would say create a human-centric design for anything that we get into. And these two aspects If you put these two aspects in any role, be it talent acquisition or a merger and acquisition or an integration leader or say a rewards point of view or any COE or an HR business partner role, if we understand the business, that why we're doing it, and we have that approach that how can we solve the problem with people, because we have to understand HR is about people. I mean, even the talent acquisition part, yes, it's very quantitative and it's very data driven, but ultimately we are hiring people. We have to convince people to join, we have to sell it to people. And therefore, that aspect is something which is very important. Now, having said that, I would say maybe strengthen on two things. First would be communication. When I say communication, it's a very broad term. I'm not talking about the language, but I'm talking about the empathy that you have, active listening, understanding. How do we create a culture within the organization? How do we build rapport with your stakeholders or even with your team members? So that communication becomes very important. And the other aspect that I would say is maybe your influence and advocacy. That's the other aspect. Now, why would I say influence? It's more like, yes, you have to convince your stakeholders. And how do you do that? You do that with your data-driven approach. So when you have to influence, you will think of 10 different things and you clearly bring in the data perspective, and then you start influencing your stakeholders to nudge and do the change management that is required in this show. I mean, now we say Bani world, but earlier was VUCA world. I think that's what I would say, that two things: communication and influence.
All right. And influence with data.
Influence with data, yeah. The influence with data, yes.
Definitely makes sense. Makes sense. Now, talking about current times, one of the trends that we are seeing and hearing a lot is the whole future of work. What do you think about this particular trend, and what have you observed kind of different because of these trends? How do you see this trend kind of evolving?
The future of work, again, very interesting question, and that's the talk of the town, is what I would say. My personal opinion, that's what I can give you right now. Uh, I don't know what would be future of work. That's because I mean we tend to read so much, but I do feel that rather than understanding that what is future of work or what is the impact, let's understand and see what do we want future of work, and are we acting in that direction. If we understand this entire future of work, you would see there are three viewpoints. One would be a very optimistic, that yes, with AI coming in, the entire way of working would change, the technology will help us, and very progressive, and usually these are the entrepreneurs talking about it. The other would be very pessimist view, supporting the degrowth, just hold on, and things would change and it'll be disastrous. And there are certain sections which are very pragmatic, that okay, everything moderation. Now, what is right is something that we can't say, but something that I clearly see, and basis what I've heard and what is basis what I have observed, I would say that the next couple of years definitely are very supportive of technology and all the technological advancements. Therefore, it's critical that for the next 1 or 2 years, we focus a lot on upskilling and reskilling, because we need to learn that how do we hone the skills. So it's more like you're getting some superpower, but or power, but how do you use it? All of a sudden, you've got it. Now you don't even know how to use it. So that becomes very important. So we are also focusing, the entire HR industry is focusing on that aspect. And then once you have done that, we'll clearly see the transition in next couple of years, that the roles would transition. It will not be the similar roles. The ask would change significantly. Everybody would ask that, okay, you know this, but do you know that aspect as well? Because
Right.
the operational part is something that, and all the repetitive tasks would be completely gone. And then would be the importance of the human skill. And that's another thing that will be the differentiator, that, okay, what's your creativity, the critical thinking, again, communication. And the most important aspect that will emerge, and that's something that you would be hearing not just in nature, is the emotional intelligence. That's something that we continuously talk about.
Yeah.
Emotional maturity, the well-being of people, that becomes very important. And that's where I see that that's where we are heading. And the focus should be primarily on learning the new skills that we have,
Right.
learning to adapt with them, and also not losing focus on the human skills.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, makes sense, and that is, of course, the future view that a lot of repetitive tasks would go away, and perhaps, in fact, this particular tech or trend would help the whole human side come out much more in a better way. Yeah, I mean, a great point of view. And now talking about, for example, the kind of workflow itself, since we kind of slightly just touch based on it. With the whole advent of AI, and there is so much automation and prompt based work, and you've of course worked across the giants with several organizations. Just from your experience, how have you seen, or how do you think the workflows within the domain of HR would change with integrations with AI?
Um, uh, See, I mean, I just spoke. The JD would change, the ask would change, and if we take some inference from there, clearly, why is it changing? Because the workflow has changed. Now the ask from the HR person or a recruiter or any other person in a team wouldn't be the same ask. We're not asking somebody to create payroll. So payroll team, I mean, it's all automated. We
Followed.
would not want a set of people who are just scheduling interviews, because a lot of things will go on automation. There would be, I would say, the screening part. Every company is focusing on building in their ATS with some AI tool. The internal applications as well. When we say that, okay, people are applying, every company is building in some kind of AI. There would be different advancements. So I feel that every company has taken a step, and in the next couple of years, there would be a lot of integration from AI, and therefore the workflow would change completely. The repetitive tasks are gone outside, and now the ask would be that, yes, you've sent, so like candidate experience, you've sent the chatbot, just communication is done by chatbot. Now
Right.
you still have to speak, and then maybe understand that what are they trying to say. Will the person join or not? What is the motivation? Because the chatbot will not be able to understand the motivation to join yet. But
Yeah.
I'm sure in the next couple of years, as the technology is advancing and becoming more intelligent, maybe in the couple of years, the machine will help us understand the motivation as well. But till date, that's what I feel, that the ask would be very different. It's no more the skill per se, but it's more that how quickly you can adapt to the changing world. And that would become the most important skill in the next couple of years, is what I see.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a fantastic point of view. If you just kind of dig deeper there, I wonder how we are going to assess something like adaptability.
How we will assess adaptability. See, here you can't assess adaptability, but so how will we assess is what I can say at the time of interview and internally. Let me split into two. At the time of interview, it's more of the situation. So how do you check the adaptability is basis the level of stress the person will have, and the
Yeah.
level of attention to detail the person will have, and how much the person will be successful. And those things, these traits is something that you can assess in an interview, not just the psychometric test. That's something which is there, obviously, like Hogan.
Yeah.
Clearly differentiates between your personality traits. I mean, if you've heard of iceberg model, the traits, the behaviors. So that clearly talks. And how do you deal with stressful situations? How do you deal with ambiguity? So that is there. And the other aspect would be give them situations and see what they've done, which is a BEI technique. So we're still following these techniques where you have, when you evaluate a person on two aspects, maybe take a psychometric test, then speak to the person, and then basis your judgment, you decide. Whereas internally, you clearly see as a new project is given, as there's some uncertainty, who is excelling.
Yeah.
While we do all these things, there's another trait, which is something which I would say is actually very critical, is the sensitivity of a person. I mean, when we talk about the well-being, how sensitive the person is. So you see, usually people who are very sensitive are really great in terms of doing their work, but also very stressed. So how do you manage that? Are they adaptable? They're not adaptable. What is happening? Their productivity is dropping. What is the kind of conversation happening? That's what is the motivation, the engagement score. So you have multiple, I would say, data points to check. And plus, the most important aspect would be your own understanding of a person. And therefore, again, I'll come to the point of interpersonal skills. Within the company, you have your interpersonal skills. You understand when you speak to your team members, even in your company, you would understand that, okay, yes, the person is not motivated, something missing. You tend to understand, and that's where empathy, listening would bring in the rapport that you build in with the team. That's how I can say that we can assess, but it's a very qualitative aspect where
Yeah.
you can't quantify the adaptability question clearly.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I mean, there is adaptability and the other qualities, and then also a lot of this is so much dependent on the time being spent with the person, and only then you kind of learn. So perhaps this is an area where AI has yet to develop. Um, yeah.
But I'm sure in the next couple of years, the way AI is advancing, we'll have something there as well.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that this is, of course, like these kind of conversations then opens up to some open, areas of research and development that someone listening to can actually work on. Now, talking about, let's say, experience of an employee, right? So
Mhm.
we have, of course, several examples of kind of talent, acquisition and so on, and onboarding, and there are many examples there. But when an employee is in a company, typically it's a long duration. How does large organizations, again, from your point of view, have you seen again the aspect of tech or AI playing a role in enhancing employee experience? Are there certain kind of good examples that come to your mind that yeah, that would be helpful to really understand?
Yeah, so Rahul, technology is today we are at a stage where technology is advanced into every role.
Yeah.
And everybody is impacted by technology, and I would say positively impacted. So when we talk about employee experience, clearly the first thing that we can say is when you actually the traditional way of working there, it was majorly if you have to get a payslip, you would actually write an email, then you will go to the accounts department. But now you have self portal, I mean self service portal, that's
Yeah.
there. All the documentation and everything is there. Um, Earlier it was like, so if I see from that aspect here, which is not a very I mean a great technology advancement, it's not AI, just some systems that has changed significantly, and that really helps. Whereas now you talk really about the experience, then I can say the chatbots. So right now, even in, I mean, I can talk about my company as well. That yes, we have it, in a lot of other companies as well. we do have chatbots where for everything you not necessarily have to go to your HR person or an admin person or rewards. You can just type in that, okay,
Yeah.
this is there. I can give you an example where I got an email and I was a little worried that what do I do? I had some query. It was a Saturday. Now, I wouldn't want to ping somebody on Saturday, but it was crucial. So the only thing that I did was I just went to the portal, I raised a ticket that this is my query. You won't believe that this query was solved in 2 hours. And I was sent a survey that, okay, how was your experience? Now, clearly for me as an employee, my experience has been great. That, oh, great, my query has been solved. Somebody was there solving it, but that aspect is available. Even with that, we also have a lot of, when we talk about mental well being, you
Right.
do a lot of surveys these days,
Yeah.
pulse check, where people tend to say that what's their mood, how are they feeling. Even when you have to recognize these days, it's not just the recognition that you have to give some cash award or salary, but there are a lot of platforms which companies are utilizing to recognize team, to reward the team, which actually make them feel valued and appreciated. And again, that really helps the person in their overall experience. Likewise, you have multiple ways, and I can clearly see that yes, the technology advancement has really helped the entire HR function, and the employee experience has been improved drastically.
Yeah. Yeah. And just out of curiosity, when you got the response within 2 hours, was it a bot or a person?
No, I think see, there is a team working behind to solve the query. And because of the, now again, I can say because there's this, everything is on data, they would also have their SLAs.
Yeah.
And possibly somebody would have solved it and would have sent a survey, knowing the criticality of the issue that is there. And there are people. See, I mean, you can't miss out people. It's not that, okay, I'd written and there was not like a system generated update. There
Response.
was a
Right.
backend team. There is a team who's working. But my point is, I will not reach out to them
Yeah.
because it's a Saturday, Sunday. I would be like, let me just try and reach out to them on Monday. But dropping an email, writing to a machine was completely okay. Just raise a ticket. It'll be solved by Monday.
Yeah.
But the team was there and they quickly solved it because of the SLA or maybe the criticality of time. Monday would have been a little late, but you still try and make sure that give the other person the time that they would need and don't do this. So yeah, it was a combination. So this is a perfect example of two aspects: human skill and the machine skill working together.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I was kind of reflecting and thinking that this whole aspect of machine in the middle really removed that human inhibition that should I write, should I not write? And on the other side, perhaps there is a human, maybe not, we don't know, but there's a service provision happening that okay, it needs to be respond like SLA. And it just made everyone's life far more effective without the kind of concern that okay, it's Saturday, what to do, and you were able to probably achieve what you wanted to do on Saturday. So that's a great example.
Yes.
Perfect. So Shailja, I will be soon coming to an end to our podcast, but a few more questions. Now, you being in a leadership role, and with this kind of new age, tech, and so much going on globally, what are some of the kind of leadership challenges that you're now encountering that you feel are sort of different and unique compared to what used to be, let's say, 5 years back?
I'll just say two things. Uh, uh, First is, I think we did touch that point of adaptability. And then we've been talking about future of work, and then we've been talking about the uncertainty. So how do you predict the future, and how are you prepared? Because you will always want to be prepared for what's coming so that you're ready with your solution. So I think that's one of the challenge that you have, that, okay, today we are here, we're doing great, but what's in the store? What might happen in this uncertain world? And are we prepared for that? That's one of the things that definitely is something that we have to work on. We wouldn't want to be complacent, and there should always be the sense of urgency, or the agility that we would want to expect. So that's one thing. And the other aspect, it's not with the new age, or 5 years back, what was there. A common thing, I would say the challenge would be that whatever we do, what's the ROI and what's the impact? We tend to do multiple things, but ultimately you have to make sense that this is what you're doing and this is the impact. That's where the focus would be. I wouldn't say that's a challenge, but overall, if I say the two focus would be more of prediction, that just be prepared for future, so that you are on your toes and ready for whatever is there in the store. That comes to our adaptability and being ready for the future. And the second is whatever we tend to do, what's the ROI? Because ultimately, again, the first question, HR does have that vantage point of business and people. So we have to make sure that whatever we do for people is somewhere giving a clear impact to business as well.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. And now on to the final question, Shailja. Talking about the young generation, the generation that is about to join the workforce, and looking at this from the lens of HR, what would be your advice to them? How should they think about work, life, and then with what is the mindset they should have joining the workforce, in the age of AI and so on?
Okay. You said work-life mindset.
I said work, life, because that's another debate.
Yeah, okay, yeah. You can't say work-life, because work-life itself is a big thing, and a lot of
Exactly.
conversation on
Exactly.
work-life. So let's just avoid that topic. But three things: work, life, and mindset. Let me just take that. Mindset, have growth mindset. Always be curious. Be ready to accept every challenge. Um, uh, uh, I would say try different things to understand what you like. I would say fail fast. That's what you should do. A lot of people still don't know that what do they like. So I started with zoology, not necessarily that was my career, and I moved into a different. And if you see my journey as well, I've done multiple roles, and clearly talent acquisition is one of the roles that I really love and I'm passionate about. So try different things is what I would say, and have growth mindset. Talking about life, I would say focus on your well-being. When I say well-being, it includes your overall life. Work is part of your life, your physical health, mental health, your financial health, everything is critical. So have multiple plans. So when you try different things, always focus on your well-being, because that's important. While there's so much of conversation about work-life balance and sensitivity and emotional intelligence, understand what you want to do, what do you want, and have your own journey. Every individual will have its own journey, so no comparison, and create your own journey and understand. Take a step back and understand what you want. That's what I can say for life. Work, I would say, to all the new people, I mean, it is covered, but try and read and understand about different roles that are there. Read a lot of case studies. That definitely gives a good perspective, because you not necessarily you have to do everything by yourself. There are people doing it. Start learning from others' mistake or others' success. So that's something that you should one should focus on. Focus on some, while we there's a constant learning of skills on AI, and people who are studying would have their own curriculum and reading is happening. While that aspect is happening, always focus on the human skill as well, because that would be a differentiator. So understand what's your differentiator. That becomes very, very important, because when you get into the workforce, There are certain things that I've realized that if you have that differentiator, you clearly excel. And have accountability of your career. So you are accountable for your career, and you are the driver. So just try and do things, and you'll create your own journey. Is what I can say.
Right. Thanks a lot, and very comprehensively covering work and life and mindset. So, Shailja, with that, I would really like to thank you for sharing your time, perspective, thoughts, and insights with us, and really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rahul. Pleasure talking.